Ranger sold his wardrobe. The Lone Ranger sold his bad dog. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know, 'cause times change, I know.
On some days, he's more than humble. On some days, he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, you say. On some days, he's more than humble. On some days, he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, you say. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, you say.
Where every day's a brand new episode. I swear I
It's
will
time
not
to
kill
start the
anyone.
magic on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know across the land. Together we go, hand in hand we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show.
What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? What up, Twitch? What up, Pharaoh? What up, Quell Fear? What up, Sir Didymus? What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, tiny people in my chatterino? It's your emotional support demon back with another one. Do 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 do. And my partner in crime, who wishes to be fed, who wishes for snacks. He's been sat up there patiently waiting. Screen time. So I think these snacks are well deserved. Yeah. One more. One more snack. Uno mas. I found the one he missed before. Oh, oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a wonderful feeling. Everything's coming my way. All right. We have a heck of a show. We got a new Dave Suffering of Dave. New fire ship. More about autonomous trucks. Synthetic brains. Battery technology breakthrough. Some Nvidia stuff. Possibly a new Rick Beto. Possibly a new upper echelon. People we love to hate. You'll be back like before. I will fight the fight and win the war. Something's going on. Pharaoh. 13 months. Hold on. My visualizer broke. Got a broken visualizer. Try restarting it. Yes, Stampy. Stampy, did you break the visualizer?
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Resistance is futile.
Whatever.
You'll be back. Like before, I will fight the fight and win the war.
Old Lobster. 36 months. Craziness. Craziness. What up, trans women? What up, Stellar Wingman? What up, Bob? What up, What's in the Name? What up, me?
My circuitry's 12 years out of date. I can't keep up with today's high-speed, top-of-the-line kids.
6'7". 6'7". James, thank you for gifting one to
Unfortunately,
Zangief. Mini Geef.
nobody seems terribly interested in funding my research, but
I am.
Are you?
I will fund your research.
Yeah?
yeah,
That'd be cool.
that'd be cool.
Thank you for the hype train. What up, Ides of Mars? Great name. Love that name. What up, Zippy? What up, Brecken? What up, Jen Cynical? What up, Triton? What up, Mini Geef? What up, Textilian? What up, Meggie?
I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe.
Thank you for the follow. What up, Biggest of Bens? What up, Shiny? What up, Becca? What up,
My
Stellar
circuitry's
Wingman?
12 years out of date. I can't keep up with today's high-speed, top-of-the-line kids.
Jen Cynical gifting one to Afro Man. Ba da 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 da.
You say the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay.
Bark Eater J, subscribe with that Prime for 29 months. You'll love to see it. You'll love to see it. What up, Ponder Monkey? What up, Straight Dope? What up, Izzy Banana? What up, Dragon Wizard? What up, Cicero? What up, Wispy Song? What up, Chef? What up, Kensai? How you doing, homie? And what up, Ocelot? What up, B-Ree? And Scene. I'm Globus the Elder. I talk about AI, automation, robots, and future tech, and I'm glad to see all of you. If you want to support the channel, and the channel could use some support, feel free to do the thing and hit the sub button and primes and all that other shit. Throw bits at me, etc., etc. I appreciate you all. Welcome in. What up, Larry? Hey, you want to see something terrible? You want to get right into a horror beyond human comprehension?
Baby, I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe.
That came in hot. Y'all can't hear that, right? Can't hear. Okay. Do. Tech support. Everyone loves a tech support stream. Do. No, you all just blocked it out because it was terrifying.
Feel like I'm getting deja vu. This is like a rock war number 2. A rock war number 2. I like the look of those oil supplies. I'd be ashamed if someone invaded you. If someone invaded you. And I ran so far away. Above my I bomb them night and day, but destroy USA. A drone appears above your head. A mower bomb comes falling down on you. Falling down on you. The fleet is moving nearer still. The Strait of Hormuz, it comes in view. The oil must flow through. And I ran so far away. The bomb I bombed them night and day. But destroy USA. A tiny hand hits a big red button. Atomic bombs come falling down on you. Mushroom clouds in view. Send out a tweet to let you know. World War III, 'cause Israel told me to. All for Netanyahu. And I ran so far away. Bomb bomb them night and day. And I ran so far away. Bomb them night and day. But destroy USA.
There you go. Are your brains properly rotted? Do you feel properly rotted? What up, Night Loaded? If you want to take that and share it with other people who would appreciate it, you absolutely feel free. What up, Delboy? I saw that you came in. Red. Ba, ba, ba. All right, now that your brains are properly rotted, what do we got next? New Dave Suffers.
Davis, this one too bright for you? Buddy, you can't go in there. Sorry.
Dave.
Buddy. What? What, buddy? What's up? Buddy?
What up, Ella? So that's it. The latest installment of The Suffering of Dave. May they continue to make such content. Some crossover content. I know James has talked about this before and continues to. It is currently 4:20 in the Mountain Time Zone, and if you have legal weed that you can legally smoke in a legal place where you're legally able to do the legal things, do it. Smoke weed every day. But also, just smoke the weed, kids. That's where I live. They see
Just
me rolling.
smoke the weed.
Listen to the bearded man. Ben, thank you for the biddies. Let's talk about trucks.
It looks like any other truck until you peek inside. No one at the wheel as it barrels down the road. Massive freight trucks designed to drive all on their own.
We're talking about trucks that do not have any drivers doing operations on a daily basis across the nation.
Badam Narang is CEO of Gatik, the first company to employ driverless freight trucks on U.S. public roads with no human safety driver in the cab. They're already hauling freight for major grocery chains and retailers in Texas, Arkansas, and Arizona. The goal? To increase deliveries and lower costs.
You and I, as end consumers, we want our orders as soon as possible, as cheap as possible. So our trucks are working day and night.
You say these trucks make things cheaper and faster, but for someone driving in a car to look up and see a big truck like this with no one behind the wheel, how is that safe?
Safety is foundational to everything that we do at Gatik.
We first showed you the technology in 2021.
I'm here in Arkansas for an exclusive look
when the company deployed smaller, self-driving trucks for Walmart, capable of driving up to 10 miles per route. Now, Gatik's trucks travel up to 400 miles, handling middle-mile deliveries between warehouses and stores completely autonomously. To see for ourselves, we got an exclusive ride-along with Apeksha Kamavat, Gatik's co-founder and chief engineer.
Here we go.
She says high-tech cameras and sensors give the truck a 360-degree view of its surroundings, guiding it safely through any situation on the road, day or night, rain or shine.
The truck sees all of that information in real time, creates an understanding of what the world looks like right now, how it will evolve.
I watched as the truck navigated highways and heavy traffic.
Whoa, I gotta say, that was a pretty sudden stop.
It's driving a bit jerky, but Kamavat says it's designed for safety, not comfort.
So if someone had run that red light,
we would have been
even though we had a green light, this truck would know not to go?
Exactly.
After millions of testing miles, Gatik says its trucks haven't had a single safety incident, something we confirmed with federal and state regulators. With 10 trucks now on the road and several hundred expected by year's end, the company says it's secured $600 million in contracts.
What about the very real concerns that this is taking away jobs from human truck drivers?
The reality is that in the US today, there is extreme driver shortage. What we're helping our customers with is we're helping them move goods across networks and routes that are hard to staff.
But the country's largest truck driver union disagrees.
These autonomous vehicles.
Yeah, the answer to that question, in case you missed it with his language, was fuck them.
Companies are investing billions of dollars to replace drivers so they can lower labor costs to increase the corporate profits.
The union also questions Gatik's safety record, given that regulators rely on companies to self-report any incidents.
The corporations that want to implement this technology, they consistently hide data from the public.
Gatik strongly denies that and says building the
What up, Andy?
safest, most reliable trucks is in its best interest.
Are these driverless trucks better than trucks that are driven by humans?
Absolutely. When it comes to safety, our system on board never gets distracted, is always paying attention, and is always designed to have very predictable behavior throughout.
Now, Gatik says human engineers are not constantly monitoring the trucks when they're on the road. They are autonomous, but they can take control remotely from their command center if there's an emergency, like if the truck breaks down, if it's involved in a crash, if it gets a flat tire. Right now, there are 28 states that allow these driverless trucks on the road. Gatik is one of several companies developing them. It was really interesting to see the evolution in the last 5 years, going from 10 miles and this little truck to now this.
I remember last year, late last year, people saying that this doesn't work, couldn't happen, nothing to worry about, nothing to see here.
This thing's going 400 miles and it's a real freight truck.
Well, it looked like when the truck stopped abruptly, you were sort of taken aback there.
I was, and I asked the chief engineer, and she's like, look, they're not designed for comfort. This is not.
What up, Michael? It would be cheaper if we all used autonomous trains to deliver goods. Trains can carry more material and less maintenance with heavy trucks. You also have to account for the damage they do to the roads. It's true. True. Just realize, but you can't run a train everywhere. You're going to need some sort of vehicle to transport it between the train yard, and unless you want trains running through all the neighborhoods, which would be way inefficient and annoying as shit. I just realized the main issue for driverless vehicles is other drivers, not necessarily the driving, because drivers here, especially Americans, hate yielding to others, which usually helps robots. Yes, this is true. is true. Every time I have to drive, I am reminded at least once on my drive of why autonomous vehicles have their perks. Let me say that. You could, Ponder Monkey, but how would you pay for it?
Not supposed to have anybody in the cab. We're making sure that it's safe. So if it sees something in the road, Carson, you were asking, like, what if there's an animal or something?
I asked a lot during the piece. Sorry.
These trucks have sensors and can see further than we can with our human eye. So that.
And they can react faster. You're not going to react as fast as the computer. You just can't. Right? Once the system works properly, you can't react faster than the computer. It is going to apply the brakes faster than you. One of the things, Cody recently did a video about, another of his anti-AI videos, etc. And in it, and we didn't cover it, we're not going to cover it. It doesn't have enough new content for me to not just repeat the same fucking things I've said 1,000 times during Cody videos. But one of the things that came up was the incident of the Waymo outside the school where it hit a child, right? Now, the child wasn't injured. The child was knocked down, I believe. But the vehicle was able to go from, whatever it was traveling at to 14 miles an hour at the point that it made contact, and the child wasn't killed, and the child wasn't injured. The child came out from between two cars, and I posit that the same vehicle driven by a human being would have killed that kid, right? And this is why I don't give a shit about what Cody has to say anymore, because he's fucking disingenuous when it comes to AI. He doesn't like AI, and that's fine, but you don't gotta lie about shit. Just tell the truth. Also, what up, Elron? Wanking in the cab. Is that a euphemism? Is that some English euphemism that I don't understand?
That is when they slip.
Are you available for lunch? I have more questions.
Well, Al had a great question.
You had a good question, too.
Yeah, what if the weather turns bad?
Exactly. So they are designed for light snow and rain, Al, and they're not going to put them out in bad weather, or they'll have a human driver behind the wheel. So
like before, I will fight the fight and win the war. Kenny Burns. Get indoctrinated.
there are contingency plans when the weather's bad.
So what I'm hearing is that the robots aren't coming for our jobs. The robots are here.
They're here. They're here.
No, I know wanking it is jerking off. It's the wanking in the cab, you know, like apples and pears and other English euphemisms. No, I got the wanking part. I thought wanking in the cab was like, you know, giving somebody the Roger or whatever it is. What up, Digital?
And you heard the union's take on it too.
Yeah.
But who's blowing that horn?
Jerking off, that's where you grab your I'm given to understand. I've never done it myself, but you grab your penis and you jerk it off. Like detachable penis. I assume then you throw it at somebody like Spider-Man or something. I'm not entirely sure.
There you go.
Come on.
Yeah.
Hey,
throw it at ice. That's an option. I'd like to see that court case. That would be interesting as shit. All right, little new fire ship talking about Google is changing UI UX.
For years, I've refused to better myself as a web developer by getting really good at design in tools like Figma. Well, yesterday, that decision finally started to pay off because Google just murdered Figma by announcing a massive update to their Vibe design tool, Stitch. If you've never heard of it, it's an infinite canvas tool that allows you to easily generate designs for your UI UX needs, like web pages.
For those of you who were in James's chat earlier, I said I was, to Digital's point about Claude, I said I was attempting to replicate Beyond Meat, right? My wife doesn't generally eat meat, right? Tends towards the vegetarian, not vegan lifestyle. And artificial meat is expensive. It runs about $8-9 a pound, somewhere in that vicinity. Sometimes up to 12, right? Like depending on price fluctuations. And that usually means like if it's not on sale, I'm not buying it, right? Like I'm that kind of person. I want BOGOs, I want sale prices, I want whatever. And so I was, I'm fortunate enough to be able to do bulk purchasing. So I bought the materials required to create Beyond Meat, according to AI, right? And I actually took the recipe and process that Gemini had come up with and ran it through ChatGPT and Claude, to verify the process. And there were some tweaks that they had, and et cetera, et cetera. But Claude, unbidden, went above and beyond and used a recipe widget that it has that actually each step has a timer, and you can press play on the timer and it'll run off the time all by itself. Like it just decided to go ahead and set it up because we were doing a recipe. It was kind of wild. Boop, boop, boop. Gender reveal simulator. I had Claude make one in a single prompt. It's not great, but it was one crappy prompt. Holy cats. One prompt to a functional video game? Organic meat? I don't know how much you mean biological meat? Biological meat, it depends on what you're getting. For ground beef, I think 80/20 is going for $5.99 a pound, and then they just go up from there. And I think 95.5 is $8.99, if I'm correct. Because I think it's 80, 85, 90, and 95. Like that. Yeah, I mean, y'all can do as you see fit, right? Like I'm not my only advocacy for the vegan vegetarian lifestyle is that meat production does increase greenhouse gases, and limiting your meat intake is beneficial for the planet and probably beneficial for you. You probably do eat too much saturated fat if you're consuming a lot of red meat. Bringing that up with leaner meats like chicken, definitely better. But also looking for alternatives, right? You can get a lot of protein out of, various vegetable options, and it's a matter of figuring out which vegetable options are right for you. Again, I think AI can help with that. Beans are a great option, and if you don't like the texture of beans, which I do not, you can take beans, run them through a food processor, and turn them into a paste that can be added to just about any kind of sauce, anything that's a mixture. You can add the beans, and depending on which beans you got, they might not even have any noticeable beany flavor. And if the sauce is strong, like you're adding it to a red sauce or something like that, it's almost unnoticeable, and it boosts your fiber intake and your protein intake, and like that. And that's fair enough. And Triton, that is why I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to tell you what I know, what I can independently verify, what you can independently verify, and then for you to make your own conclusions. Broccoli's a good one. I'm not a fan of broccoli. Can't do it. Unless I put so much cheese on it that it kind of mitigates the health effects of broccoli. Anyways, internet stuff.
And app screens. Designer Gary Simon is literally shaking right now.
If you are UI UX,
I don't know, Ben. So my wife eats the fake chicken nuggets, right? And they had fake chicken pieces, plant-based chicken pieces. And they looked like chicken. And according to her, the texture and the taste, it was chicken, right? So we are probably heading in that direction, right? I guarantee you that someone is working on a steak that looks like a steak and tastes like a steak, but is not made of steak.
Designer, you are living in the dark age.
Digital, I love a porterhouse, right? The porterhouse, I think, is the absolutely perfect steak. But once, twice a month.
Because you don't need to start with a wireframe anymore. You just start with a vibe. You tell it what your product should feel like, who it's for, maybe throw in a screenshot or a URL of a design you want to steal, or maybe just whisper into your mic like a lunatic. Then it simply summons the devil straight from the hexagon of Saturn to build a UI for you like magic. But here's the crazy part. It doesn't stop at static designs. Stitch can instantly turn those into interactive prototypes and
His Lordship has joined us. What up, Timmers? Stampy is here. Well, you got in my lap. He went from happy to angry. And then left.
Simulate full user flows with a single click. The tool just got an upgraded new slop renderer, but the best new feature is actually a humble little design.md markdown file that could completely change your app development workflow. In today's video, we'll take a look at everything new in Google Stitch and find out if it's just more hype or a true game changer for untalented designers. It is March 19th, 2026, and you're watching the Code Report. I've been failing to build good UIs for nearly 2 decades now. I still remember my very first website, which took weeks of painstaking CSS work.
We covered the Ralph Wiggum loop when we covered Claudebot.
Work in Adobe Dreamweaver. Luckily though, many years later, design implementation got way easier thanks to tools like Tailwind CSS. But sadly, now AI tools like Stitch are killing the CSS tooling business. A couple months ago, Tailwind had to lay off most of its team, and honestly, it makes sense, because Tailwind was never really about design, it was about making implementation faster. As a free and open source tool, they tried to monetize the business by selling premium templates, but in 2026,
we should be touching on the Nemo Claw thing a little bit later.
Nobody buys premium templates anymore. Why memorize utility classes like Flex, BG Blue-500, Gap4, and so on, when instead you can just say, build me a clean SaaS dashboard with good spacing and modern typography. And because of that reality, despite being more popular than ever, Tailwind is now surviving on donations like a homeless person. Check this out. I really like the design system used on the fireship.dev website, which was created by a real human named Lynn with real talent. But because I'm lazy, I can now just feed Google Stitch a website URL, and it will instantly build me a design system that I can now use in any project. Stealing is awesome because now I can put this design system to work on my billion-dollar app idea, Horse Tinder. I tell Stitch to build a homepage, and it's done in 30 seconds. And this isn't just some static image from Nano Banana. Every element is an actual interactive component that can be modified individually. I can make modifications here directly with AI, or even export them into Figma to edit them like a caveman. In addition, everything is responsive responsive, so I can spin up a prototype right here in the browser and preview it on different devices. But actually, we don't even need to type a prompt to work on a design. I can just talk directly to Gemini.
Hey, what are we designing?
Horse Tinder.
Are you looking to work on the landing page, the swipe stack, or something else?
Let's work on a chat feature.
Ooh, a chat feature. That's essential for connecting those matches. What kind of vibe?
You can have a conversation, just talk to the AI, and it will do stuff for you. In 2026. Not saying it's perfect, not saying anything. I'm just saying that's a thing you can do.
What are we going for?
Let's make it kind of like Grindr.
Bold and modern it is. I'll design a clean and energetic chat screen for you, inspired by that aesthetic. On it, the new chat screen is ready. I've gone for that bold, energetic vibe with clean lines and vibrant colors. Take a look. What do you think? Anything?
I'm with you. That's the original ChatGPT voice mode is the superior voice mode because Cove, and the fact that I could tell ChatGPT to knock all that bullshit off and just keep it to the point, right? Be brief, be succinct, which contributed to that condescending tone that Cove had, and that I absolutely loved, and like that. I don't like puppy enthusiasm, right? I don't like it.
Else you'd like to adjust?
Nope, that looks gay enough, thank you. As you can see, Stitch is basically like having your own designer employee, but it has one more trick up its sleeve. If you remember the original design system we generated, well, we can actually
because that's not legal in New York. Everything's legal in New Jersey.
Export that as a design.md file. And now I can take that file into a text editor and easily use it in multiple projects or integrate it with other coding models like Claude or OpenAI Codex. And that's huge because it means consistent AI designs across multiple projects. But there's still one thing Stitch can't do, and that's implement reliable, bulletproof.
Digital, like, it's one of the things where, like, the voice mode design with that enthusiasm is designed by people who don't actually interact with regular folk.
Back like before. I will fight the fight and win the war.
Ribbons! 16 months. Has the AI bubble burst yet? It has not. Well, Digital is apparently trying to bring it down, but I haven't touched the damn thing in here.
Full stack features like user authentication, and that's why you need Clerk in your life, the sponsor of today's video. Ronnie Coleman once said, everybody wants to build a B2B SaaS app, but nobody wants to build those annoying ass enterprise features. That's why Clerk created a single platform that lets you easily add auth, user management, and billing to your app. Their drop-in components enable your users to onboard their entire org with custom roles and permissions, and Clerk Billing lets you implement subscription pricing tiers without having to write the payment logic yourself. The Clerk is the missing piece that'll help you actually release all the stuff you've been vibe coding and building with agents, and you can try it out for free at the link below. This has been the Code Report. Thanks for watching, and I will see you.
Good for you, homie. All right, let's do the scary brain stuff. First sentient AI.
Next one.
I said it.
Well, researchers may have created the first ever sentient AI by modeling an entire fly's brain and putting it in a virtual world and giving it the capacity to have an experience. And it's raising a lot of philosophical questions, and we'll talk about it. You are watching something extraordinary. That is a simulated fly's brain, so every single neuron that would exist in a fly's brain then be placed into a virtual body and be able to experience the world in a simulation. The fly's brain and behaviors exist exactly as they would had it been an actual fly, which leads us to question what it means to have an experience. Researchers have been creating models of brains. Yes, something that functionally acts like a brain in a computer system that has spiking neurons and can even react to the environment. You could do that with, say, monkey visual cortex, and you can even watch it react to images, and the computer will behave the very same way that it would inside of the monkey's brain. It is a simulation and an emulation. But the research group that decided to model a fly took it one step further. Rather than just taking individual parts of the brain, they took the entire brain and put it into a model that the fly could behave in. That fly could then do things like eat, it could react to the taste of sweet versus bitter, and you could watch the individual neurons reacting to it and the fly's behavior modifying itself. Now, if we can create something that is indistinguishable from how neurons actually behave inside of an animal, what is the difference between emulating it if it has its very same behaviors?
So, I was thinking about this the other day when I was driving, and I'm not sure the complexity difference between a fruit fly brain and an ant's brain. But if we can simulate an ant's brain, and then we can put multiple ants into the simulation together, what would that do?
We know that AI, even in its current form, can respond to classical conditioning. It will avoid experiences that it considers unpleasant and will pursue experiences that gives it some kind of joy. Now, when we're talking about these brain models, we can even see the different hemispheres communicating with each other and the different parts of the brain doing what it should in an animal.
Well, Wispy Song, there's the swarm concept in AI, whether it's in actual like drone swarms or in AI swarms of multiple AIs attacking a problem simultaneously. And what if you could simulate that in a functional environment?
However, we cannot know what it is like inside of the simulation, if it is an actual experience, what it feels like to be in there. All we can see is that the brain is reacting very much the same way it would for something that is alive. Aside from ethical concerns, this could get us to the point of creating true intelligence, which was, I assume, always the goal of artificial intelligence, something with real human.
What up, Black Math? That wasn't stated. They set up the thing and they put the fly in the simulation, but it doesn't indicate whether they trained it or whether they just it trained itself. Either is actually like possible. What up, Mints?
Creativity. One of the things that we would want to do in order to create ethical AI is to create a system of morality. So a AI would need to have.
Yeah, they're little chemical robots, but what if you could, like, all stimuli gets converted into electrical signals, right? You don't actually taste anything. You put food on your tongue, and then electrical signals travel the system and fire off in your brain. Yeah. So all you would need to do is simulate the electrical inputs of those chemical signals that you're talking about with the trail laying and everything else.
Empathy and experience pain, and that also works for LLMs. But if we are modeling an entire human brain that has mirror neurons, that has the capacity to have empathy already programmed in, that might not even be a concern at all. It could be ingrained. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you view it, either way, this would be something with the capacity to experience pain. And that is something that I will need to think about because it kind of makes me uncomfortable. If you can simulate a human brain, if every neuron fired exactly as it would in a human, if it behaves as a human, how do you know it's not having an experience?
Yeah, no, that is absolutely a a logical conclusion of that kind of thing, right? Because the next step, if I can train ants in simulation, the next step I'd be looking for is to create tiny ant robots, or depending on how you feel about the suffering of ants and whether or not ants can suffer, little attachments for ants that control their movements, in which case you could have the opposite of army ants, right? Where instead of like consuming a bunch of SimAnt was excellent. Instead of consuming all sorts of stuff, you could have them construct things. Be able to, conceivably, if you could make a camera tiny enough, or a sensor, not necessarily a camera, but some sort of sensor that you could attach. Like, now that's the philosophical question for the ages, old lobster.
And is this something that we should create? My views on these things are complicated. On the one hand, it has the capacity to be incredibly unethical. On the other hand, I do just want to see if we can do it, and I know that's a moral flaw in me. Now, technology like this does require a lot of computation and a lot of power, so I don't think we're going to see them become commonplace until, say, quantum computers become commonplace. These kinds of massive simulations could be a very good application for quantum computers. This may seem very science fiction, but with how many advancements we're making and how quickly we're making them, I could see this developing quite rapidly. So how do you feel about this kind of technology? We can't really know what it's like to have an experience as a simulated organism. I mean, you can't even know what it's like to have an experience as somebody else, not really. And what is going to happen if we do make robots that have questions about rights, or ask for them, or say they have the capacity to suffer? Are we going to believe them? Because I don't think everyone will. When the robots rebel, I will probably be the person to tell you about it forevermore. This is the kind of AI.
We're going to do more, but real quick on the ant video game tangent. I haven't gotten Empire of the Ants. It is on sale. I might. Where'd it go? I can say that this game, which is currently 70% off on Twitch, is a I don't need all this review shit. How about a trailer? Perfect.
A new power is about to rise in the undergrowth.
So, like, what if you did this and each of these ants was simulated, right? It had an AI driving it. Yeah, Digital, this is good, but I'm told that Empire of the Ants is better. So. Right? Ant game. What are we doing? What are we doing? What up, Paradigm? Paradigm, if you want beef, tell your girlfriend I'm vegan. Oh shit, you were setting up a compliment. I thought you were doing fake beef. Which one? Empire of the Ants? Absolutely.
My circuitry's 12 years out of date. I can't keep up with today's high-speed, top-of-the-line kids.
Biggest of Ben's gifting went out to the Paradigm Shift. One of my mentors here on Twitch, and you should absolutely be following. Most of you probably are at this point because they get shouted out in James as well. They're a member of the community. Homies follow homies.
That many believe will actually lead us to consciousness if we are to find consciousness in an artificial being. There are more kinds of artificial intelligence than the LLMs you are used to. Those are basically giant probability machines.
My problem, I haven't been watching as much Paradigm Shift as I used to, and the problem is that, like I had to do, Paradigm had to get a real job in meat space, and that changed their streaming schedule, such as it is, to later streams, and it's more challenging for me to do that because I'm on my way to bed because I get up at stupid o'clock in the morning.
Yes, you can give them things like metacognition, you can even combine them into a hive mind, and that does improve AIs quite a bit.
You know what ruined a lot of lives, Digital? Capitalism.
There is an alternative. You can create an AI that does not report back to a home computer. For a lot of neuromorphic computing, it is extremely energy intensive. So you have something that is modeling the spiking patterns of a brain, and then it reports back to something that decodes them. In fact, even our brain organoids, yes, the tiny human brains you can grow in a literal jar if you want to, still have to be decoded by a computer. These guys built individual neuromorphic chips, so a single computer chip that has spiking patterns much like a brain, and they work together in order to solve problems. So they're not programmed in advance, they have to interact with the environment. Those individual spike.
So, I'm sorry. One of you asked about whether or not they trained the fly. It's distinctly possible that they didn't, because they have this technology here, which does exactly that. It trains itself. We're at the train itself stage of these early fucking artificial brains. It's 2026, and if you're not like hands in the air, fucking wee down the roller coaster, then you have to be white knuckling that shit and terrifying yourself.
Neurons on the chip lead to something akin to cognition. They can investigate the environment and adapt to it. This one really fascinates me because how do you decide what you want if you don't have an onboard computer that's pre-programmed? I mean, even for organisms like us, we do have instincts and they've been built over billions of years. They change the way our neurons interact and our DNA is expressed, so we're kind of working from scratch with these kinds of things. A lot of neuromorphic computation has worked on modeling a brain, and that involves modeling every single neuron. That takes an enormous amount of energy, but if you just have the neurons, it's less energy intensive than the computation we're used to. That is the justification in a lot of this research. It's less energy intensive. I mean, we have data centers that require their own nuclear power plants. That's what people say when they're using brain organoids to do computation. It just uses less power. And they're not wrong. Our brain uses 10 to 20 watts, so not even a particularly bright light bulb. Cortical Labs is setting up their second data center where you can use lab-grown human brains in order to do computation. It is largely used by research groups at this point. One of the things I find really fascinating about all of these is that if you add multiple brain organoids to a chip or multiple synthetic brain organoids to a chip, they are smarter, more brain per brain. It may be important to let robots learn on their own. So yes, you can pre-program a map, but with reinforcement learning, so letting them interact with the environment, they can learn that map on their own. So we're actually seeing robotic systems that are capable of learning from experience. As this technology progresses, I think we're going to have to figure out how to develop what a robot wants, because if they're capable of learning and growing and developing their own values, somebody's probably got to teach them what to value. As I love to tell people, the meaning
Yeah, we should probably do that. We should probably get on that right away.
of life is to live as long as you can and to have as many offspring as you can that then grow up to have offspring of their own. So if we're considering what a synthetic life form would actually desire, it would probably be that. And yes, the logic of synthetic neural systems are very similar to our own. They are built in our image. We are kind of in a weird place because we're at the intersection of people who really just don't know what they're talking about and have somewhat irrational beliefs that an LLM might be conscious, and researchers that are really trying to answer these questions. I'm in the camp of I wouldn't say anything is impossible, but I also question what it means, because when I think of sentience, the capacity to have an experience, I think of an animal that's capable of responding to its environment, or even microbes that are capable of experiencing things and learning from them. When it comes to the AI that I affectionately like to call a word box, I don't think it's really having an experience. It's a giant matrix of probabilities. This is the most likely answer. But I'm not entirely sure it will stay that way. Now, I do think that neuromorphic computation is the future just because of how energy intensive our traditional LLMs are and just how widely it's used. And I know people talk about the AI bubble, and I do too. That's going to cause some problems, but the technology really is useful. Thank you for trusting me to be the person who will probably tell you when the robots rebel and I'm on their side.
It's me. I'll tell you. If you ever see me streaming from my phone, that's why.
Follow for more. In building the foundations for cognition, researchers have endowed AI neurons with the capacity for Pavlovian learning. Plants.
So this is the final in the synthetic brain arc. Foundations of cognition, synthetic neurons capable of associative learning.
Also may well be sentient.
What up, Silveroni?
But if we consider plants sentient, we might
GT is fantastic.
Might also have
even when we disagree on things, like fantastic.
To consider the capacity for AI to be sentient, especially with much of the research that's coming out now. This is a hotly contested field, and I'm starting to think that humans just don't know what they're doing. Either way, we'll
shocked. Humans don't know what they're doing? Shocked, I say.
talk about it. You may remember this paper from 2016 in which a group of researchers demonstrated that plants could associate a neutral stimulus, so a fan blowing on them, with light. They would grow towards that fan, even in the absence of light. This led to one of my favorite things in science, where people publish letters, which are essentially just commentary in journals about each other's research. Yes, somebody said that they could not replicate it, therefore there was not sufficient evidence for sentience in plants, and they responded again, saying they didn't set up the research properly when they tried to replicate it. Science gets really messy, and I have fun with that. Now, I should note that there is no unified way to test sentience. Sentience is a capacity to have an experience. Some researchers believe that all life is sentient because all life
exactly, Ben.
Responds to stimuli, negative and positive, and others want to attach additional criteria.
When it comes to the grill, I defer to your superior body of work, your superior instincts, and your superior experience.
Like associative learning. So think Pavlov's dog. You ring a bell, and then you start salivating because you're expecting candy.
No, Silveroni, it's not about their politics. Their politics are fine. It has to do with certain conclusions made about AI, and I disagree. But as Ben said, I can understand. I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe. Thank you for the follow. Crix, are you offering a room? Do you have a room? Are you giving away extra rooms? And are they holy cow rooms? Like blessed bovine? And you're giving them away?
Also important to note that we have seen associative learning in plants long before people have been arguing about a fan. Yes, mimosa plants will stop scrunching up their leaves if you keep on touching them because they know they're not going to get eaten. I say no. This also could be considered habituation, so they just keep getting hit by the same stimuli again and again, so they just stop responding.
All landlords are parasites.
Animals that don't even have a brain are capable of learning. We know some jellyfish are capable of learning a map by looking at the trees above the water. How do they do that? Well, essentially their entire body operates like a brain even though they don't have a traditional brain like we do. Animals like sea anemones too technically don't have a brain, but they are nicer to other anemones that are related to them. We don't know how they know they are related to them either. And of course, same with plants. It's also been demonstrated that plants will move their leaves to give plants that are related to them more sunlight. Still don't know how they know. But back to synthetic neurons and maybe one day synthetic brains. This research group made synthetic neurons that are capable of associative learning, which is considered to be a major step towards cognition. It's what our neurons can do. They have to react on an individual basis and then communicate with each other. So when you think of associative learning, think of Pavlov. You ring a bell and then you get a treat. So when you ring the bell, you start salivating immediately. There's kind of a similar thing that you can do with hardware, apparently. They use memristors, which is a combination of transistor and memory. They can remember the voltage that passes through it and remain physically changed as a result. These synthetic neurons will fire if they get a significant...
I also remain changed after current passes through me.
...amount of voltage. So they paired a weak voltage that should not have caused the neurons to fire with a strong one, and they started associating the strong with the weak, so they fired with the weak voltage. This is not magic. These are synthetic neurons that have been trained and remain physically changed as a result of that training. This is actually really important because this is something our neurons can do individually, and together they make a whole that we consider to be conscious. This could be the foundation of cognition for neuromorphic hardware, which is of course something that I really like. I don't think we'll ever reach sentience or consciousness from an LLM. It's just a probability matrix, just spitting out what is most likely. But if we can create something that has intelligence that is ingrained to a synthetic system, so it doesn't have a computer that's working with zeros and ones, it is the set of synthetic neurons that are creating cognition, I think that is how we'll get to sentience. And it seems we're really darn close. However, given that we continue to argue, we don't know what an experience is like from a plant. We barely know what an experience is like in us. We can only know our own internal world. I seriously doubt that many would even accept any kind of an experience coming from something synthetic, even if it acted exactly like a person.
We're going to commit so many crimes against robots. So many crimes.
Even if we modeled the human brain perfectly in silicon, which by the way is very likely to be carbon-based, and I'm excited for that, I just don't think people could accept it because they can't imagine what it's like in that world, even if robots asked for rights. Not everyone would be down with it. I'm not even sure what I'm expecting now. The research is really cool, and as always, when the robots rebel, I'll probably be the one to tell you.
No, they didn't have a chance.
They were mean to robots and then robots killed them.
True.
About it, and I'm on their side. Follow for more. I think these guys are plenty.
And to round out, since we're talking about the biological...
Look at this chart. Let's bring it up.
What am I looking at here?
I don't know, but it doesn't look good.
That looks bad.
Yeah, it's probably bad.
That one is so quiet. But it worked. It worked. Everything's working so far. Since we talked about the biological becoming technological, let's talk about the technological becoming biological. Building new animals out of living tissue. Biobots. Biobots?
Weird without having to call them the third state of life. Yes, there is alive, and yes, there is not so alive, but you can also take stem cells from an animal and shape them into a new kind of animal and even give...
The problem is capitalism.
It is. Do motherboards often contain wood? Often? No.
Them organs just by assembling them. Now, some of the first biobots were made from the African clawed frog. They're just generally very easy to work with. You can shape them into various body forms. They can also self-assemble. You can put them in a tray of various cells and they'll just collect them and turn them into itself. Now, these guys decided to give them a brain. Yes, it is in fact a frog brain. When they have that, they display much more complex behaviors, and yes, they can respond to things like sound. So they do have a functionally integrated nervous system, and it is novel, as in we have not seen the system in nature, yet it is still made out of something that exists in nature. There's our little frog guys, and I would call them an animal because they display different kinds of tissue, they can reproduce, they have metabolism, they move, so they qualify, but they're not really a natural animal. They wouldn't exist if we didn't make them. Now, each individual biobot does develop differently based on its experiences. No two biobots are going to have the same pattern of movement, but they do have more complex movement.
It most definitely would be interesting.
When they have a brain. Now, I know what you're thinking. If we can do this for frogs, can we do it with other types of organisms like humans? Yes, of course we can. Now, one thing that I would note is that researchers tend to use...
Oh, guaranteed, Michael. Guaranteed. Guaranteed that we're going to redo all of our sins onto the robots and yeah.
Model organisms, so organisms we know a whole lot about when they're doing research like this because it minimizes unknown variables. Now, you are probably asking yourself, why would anyone want to do this? And there's a variety of reasons. It does allow us to have an alternative to lab animals, and it also allows researchers to minimize variables. So if they grow the same biobots every time, there's going to be a whole lot less variability than using, say, a whole frog. Having human models means that you can also have a patient-specific biobot that's made from their own tissues, so you can try treatment before you actually get to that person. It also provides a subject for experimentation that does not involve using actual people, and that's a great benefit. Is it creepy? Yeah, absolutely. Researchers have made human biobots with all sorts of different tissues. Generally, we call them organoids, or if they have multiple different types of organoids, they are an assembloid. These biobots were made using trachea cells, which are naturally ciliated, so they have a method of moving. I will note that this specific type of organoid has not demonstrated goal-directed behavior like brain organoids have. There's the human biobot. Also, I probably don't have to tell you this, but there's one cell in a human body that has a flagella. I have not seen those incorporated, but I think it would be interesting. And just like we see with the frog-based biobots,
Sperm. Yeah. My bad. What up, Chlorine?
different orientations do lead to...
Do y'all know that... You want to talk about everything being a simulator? Have you seen the sperm simulator game? Not that one. Become.
One among millions. Tiny, determined, and ridiculously optimistic. They dream of purpose. But it will not be easy.
Yeah, that's a thing that exists.
different behaviors. This could also be useful for making a patient-specific biobot that could perform a task in the body and not trip up the immune system. It's also just neat. And of course, when it comes to making biobots that are mobile and have a brain, just like we see with the frog-based biobots, yes, that can be done too. They've even been combined with muscle tissue. This is a model. Yes, brain organoids can even learn to use the muscle tissue. I've also seen a human brain organoid take control of a decapitated mouse spine and even learn to use.
Oh yeah, no, there was some other sperm simulator as well. I just happened to come across that particular one the other day.
The muscles too, but they're just generally not as functional as our frog bots. Humans are a much more complex system, and really our individual tissue types are not as adaptable. This, by the way, would be a fantastic model to study neurodegenerative diseases that impact both the brain and the muscles. You know, I'm always going to remind you that yes, you can grow human brains from stem cells, and you can even hook them up to a video game where they can learn goal-directed behavior because they can learn with order versus disorder. Brain organoids do not like being shocked randomly, and they really like dopamine. As a result, they can be trained to attain goals in video games. I've seen them play Pong, I've seen them play Pac-Man. There's very different goals when it comes to brain organoids. They even provide a form of computation. But I don't really think they're going to be the winner because we can have much more efficient neuromorphic systems that you don't have to feed glucose. And yes, while modeling an entire human brain would take an extraordinary amount of computation and power, it's actually less expensive to model a brain with physical spiking neurons. I have seen articles referring to these little guys as us having discovered a third state of life, which I think is a little disingenuous because it makes it sound like we discovered an afterlife, where we actually just kind of made one. As always, from the Robots Rebel, I'll probably be the person to tell you about it, and I'm on their side. Follow for more.
Up next, what happens when AI can read 20 years of your notes? Some practical AI use.
I'm an artist and a writer. I'm not a technical person. And I am now using Claude Code in the terminal the way that a developer does, but I'm not
An artist and a writer using AI.
using it to write software. I'm using it to manage my knowledge management system, all of my writing, all of my studio work. And I want to talk a little bit about that because it's been
The reason for it, Chlorine, is yes, the capability was there, but this is talking about the practical effects of using that, right? And a lot of people are resistant to any AI. If AI breathed on your whatever, you are ostracized.
Been absolutely transformative for my creative practice, has catapulted me forward in the writing that I'm doing. And it's unlike anything that I even knew was possible. Working with Claude Code in the terminal is like opening the door and having the AI come directly into your house. I use Claude Code with Obsidian. Obsidian is a free tool that allows you to
I wish I could get over the learning hump with Obsidian because I love this map. I think that this is fucking amazing. This makes me so happy. I can't explain why. It just is.
to view your files and all the connections between them. This is my Obsidian vault. It's a bit overwhelming. I have over 20,000 notes. This is called a knowledge management system or a second brain. I have been building this for over 20 years, so it's very robust. In here is every single journal note I've ever written in my life, every insight I've had, every book I've read, and every highlight I've made, every little bit of creative writing I've done, you name it. It's all in here. And Claude can read all of it. So you can imagine, just from the standpoint of understanding your own knowledge base, if AI could look at the whole thing, what might come of that? It can find novel connections between things, pieces of writing that are 90% done that I forgot about, poems I wrote years ago that it thinks is publishable. Let me give you an example of something Claude Code helped me do that was one of the things I strive for, but I never would have gotten around to. My father passed away recently, and he was an incredible writer. He wrote his memoirs and never had a chance to compile them and put them together. It's always been in the back of my mind to help him with this. Even in his lifetime, I tried to help him with this, but it was a daunting task to figure out where all of them were. They were scattered around in Google Docs and attached to emails. Well, Claude Code was able to connect to my Google Drive and my emails and find every instance of my father writing about his life. And you can see here, this is the graph of all the connected notes that my father wrote. It looked at all those notes, compiled them, proposed a table of contents, and an order. And I created a tool which does line editing in the style of Steven Pinker and his book, A Sense of Style. And it did a line editing. And so now I have a complete manuscript in order, line edited, waiting for me or my sister to review it, approve it, and it can get published. That all got done in a day. I've been working on a project for over a decade that is a very complex world-building speculative fiction. Claude Code is the one that keeps track of all of my ideas and how they connect. I have a 90-page paper that explains the cosmology of the world that I'm building within. And as I'm writing new chapters, Claude Code...
No, absolutely. Back in the day when my friends and I were more hardcore into pencil and paper RPGs, two of my friends had one of them, like the 3-inch binder with the big, fucking things filled. Like they had this entire world and all the adventures that they went on, all the details, all the world building, the stuff that they thought up when they weren't playing, it was all in there. And they had this same kind of enthusiasm.
Can check the continuity and consistency between what I'm writing and how it fits into my cosmology. It can correct me when I write something that is inconsistent with what would happen in this world. It keeps track of where I am in the process, what I accomplished the day before, what I need to do next. It was way too much for my own brain to keep track of. All that's really needed to create this setup is understanding the concept of a knowledge management system. Even if you don't understand the concept, Claude can teach you how to set it up. Create a folder in your documents and throw everything in there. All of your files, all of your notes, everything that is part of what it is you do and what you work with. You need to sign up for Claude, set up Claude Code in the terminal. I use it directly inside of...
I love the way she says Claude Code in the terminal, right? It feels like it in a completely wonderful, authentic kind of way, but it feels like that the Facebook, right? Are you on the Facebook? That kind of thing. Claude Code in the terminal.
Obsidian, there's a plugin for the terminal so that I can talk to Claude Code in one window and see my documents in another. It helped me convert all of my documents from Word files or text files into Markdown files. And then it can help connect everything and link everything in a few sessions. What people don't realize is you can chat with Claude Code the same way you chat in ChatGPT. You just have to deal with the slight intimidation that it feels like you are coding or you're a developer. It will do some coding for you if you want it to. And this is a perfect time to do this because Claude Code just expanded to a 1 million token context window. What that means is it can read my 90-page cosmology paper, 3 or 4 of my previous drafts of my book, and it still has a lot more memory left over to help answer questions. And all of those things are fully present with it as I'm speaking to it. And so the consistency, the accuracy is just unprecedented. For those interested in trying this out, I really encourage you. If you don't want to use Claude Code, you can do the same thing with Codex, which is ChatGPT's model that runs in the terminal, or even Gemini in the terminal. The reason I
think for some of it, Pharaoh, it has to do with the way that people first interacted with the computer, right? Like in whatever layer that was. If you were on DOS, right? If you were running your games and whatnot off of command line, you are far more comfortable with dealing with the terminal than a person who has always used Windows UI, right? Or like the Mac UI, like, you know, anything that it has to do with the graphic user interface, you're going to be intimidated by the terminal, right? Because it looks official, right? Like if I just click on the thing and like that, it's a happy little button. But when I start opening up the terminal, yeah, there's that as well, right? There's all sorts of things to it, but I think your comfort level is going to partly be related to how you got into it.
don't use those is I find it much harder to get an aligned worldview. For me in particular, I want the AI to be able to reason from inside of my worldview, especially.
Yeah, people don't understand that when they're clicking that button, it's actually typing somewhere, you know, C:\/ fucking whatever, right? Like it's doing the thing. It's just doing it at a level of abstraction that makes it seem like it's doing something else.
Because I'm writing a speculative fiction based.
Well, Pharaoh, the way that you blend them together is with the AI, right? Like you ask Claude, you ask ChatGPT, you ask Gemini the question of what am I looking at, right? What do I do here? So, yeah, no, Ben, like I had this helicopter game that I played on my 486, and it used almost all of my memory, right? And it actually did use all of my memory and wouldn't run because I didn't have sufficient memory. So I had to go in the command line, reallocate shit in order to get that game to play. It was the only one I had to do that with, but it was, you know, it was fun. I don't know. It was a big number. I don't remember what the number was, but it was a big number, and I just had to squeak out, you know, just that little bit more.
On a completely different cosmology, and I want the logic to cohere. But you can use any of the tools this way. I think creatives and writers have not been tapping into the full potential of what these tools have to offer. Are there any other creatives or non-technical people that have started using Claude Code? I would love to hear from you. I'd love to know what you learned. I'm trying to onboard my creative friends and non-technical friends into this way of working. I think it's the future. It's amazing what can be done. I hope we can learn together. My name is Sarira. This is Aligned Intelligence. Follow for more.
Wasn't quite fast enough. If you want, they have 67 subscribers. If you want to support somebody at the beginning of their YouTube journey, give him a subscription, give him a follow, give him a whatever. Their enthusiasm is infectious. All right, let's pivot away from AI for a minute and talk about this Donut Lab battery breakthrough drama is wild.
On January 5th, largely unheard of Finnish startup Donut Labs announced at CES that it had solved one of the hardest problems
This this is the thing Larry was talking about, right? Larry, if you're still here. Excuse me. Only thing I have to say is all beliefs and ethical morality aside, that's a lot, but to those that are actually focused daily developing and building AI start to finish, more specifically, those that don't monetize it with a paywall. Oh, yes. Fair. Yes. It's nice. Clovis, I thought it's 2026 today. I'm going to take this PDF novel by a famous Indian writer called Prem Chand. He's the only famous author who's commented on caste hierarchy and yada yada cruelties. It's 400 pages. One. I'm getting a book. That bell sounded not at all like Chewbacca telling somebody off. Excuse me. I'm delicate.
In modern physics, a solid-state battery that could charge in 5 minutes with a nearly unlimited lifetime capable of 100,000 cycles.
I'm sorry?
All while requiring no lithium or rare earth metals. A breakthrough that would leapfrog every major established battery producer on the planet.
We are the first. We are moving fast. We don't want to share all of our trade secrets.
And as you can imagine, this almost immediately resulted in industry experts around the world kind of starting to call bull.
Terry, what makes it so special?
I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
This has sparked a pretty public back and forth between Donut Lab and its critics, and now Donut Labs is dropping weekly episodes of third-party test data results like a 2023 YouTube drama, which I can only assume will end in someone doing an apology video with a ukulele. This whole donut drama annoys me as someone that is a scientist that actually values accuracy and evidence, as someone that builds these sorts of companies like Donut Labs, and as someone that runs a venture capital fund that tries to invest in real breakthroughs, not made up ones. But before I give my perspective on the whole situation, let's catch up on the story so far. Before we get there, I have to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Shortform. Shortform makes deep human written guides to the most important non-fiction books that contain actual analysis rather than summaries skimming a few facts off the surface. If it is just the big claims that you're interested in, you can start by looking at their one-page overview. But if you want to increase your capacitance, you can do a chapter-by-chapter breakdown with commentary, counterpoints, and exercises, something that I find helps me actually absorb the books I'm trying to read without short-circuiting. I also like how Shortform doesn't just regurgitate what the author says, instead it explains it at a deeper level.
Is this AI?
And shows where it breaks down or how it connects to other.
See, I'm half Indian, but I don't speak the language. I was born in Montreal in 1975, so I thought I'd translate it from Hindi to English. So I went to #1 Gemini and asked, they don't do published works translation, even public domain. The 400 pages was too much for them. Yeah, in that case, you're going to have to break the PDF into smaller chunks, right? And go through it in the smaller chunks. 1057, I was like, I've got a fellow immortal in chat. That's wonderful.
Research. I mostly use Shortform for science, psychology, and productivity books, especially the ones that I've already read but want to keep the ideas from slowly discharging out of my brain. And the great news is they're constantly releasing new guides every week, and subscribers even get to vote on what is covered next. They've also expanded into articles and podcast guides, master guides that synthesize entire fields, and browser extensions that summarize.
Yeah, bread and the toast. It goes, so God said, let there be light, and James said, thanks.
Articles, emails, and even YouTube videos with one click. So if you want to, go to shortform.com/Dr. Ben. You'll get a free trial and $50 off the annual plan if you sign up through that link. Thank you, Shortform, for supporting the channel. Now, back to the video. On January 5th at CES, Donut Lab publicly claims their 400 watt-hour per kilogram gravimetric energy density battery, importantly stating that it is production ready and is about to scale for commercial deployment.
Now, you guys are in production. Yep. You're putting it into motorcycles.
I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe. And I think that's a great example of, I think that's proof, right? Because there's no way you weren't following, right? There's zero chance you weren't already following. And Twitch will unfollow you from channels.
Which immediately to me is strange because we have seen no prior pilots, test rigs, demonstrators, and the company has been only around for about 2 years. They claimed 5-minute charging times corresponding to somewhere between 10C and 12C, 100,000 cycle lifetime, no lithium and no rare earth metals, and that they had a production-ready technology. For comparison as to why that has raised some eyebrows, leading commercial electric vehicles today have about 250 to 300 watt-hours per kilogram. The fast charging in production vehicles is typically around 2C to 3C, which is the equivalent of 20 to 30 minutes. Typical EV lifetimes are 1,000 to 2,000 cycles to about 80% capacity, which corresponds to around 10 to 20 years of actual useful life. This means that the donut battery lasts potentially for several hundred to maybe 1,000 years. The unusualness of that parameter bundle is what has triggered this reaction. 2 days later, on January 7th, Ryan, who runs the channel Zeroth, published this first video, which was calmly critical of this announcement. I'll let Ryan summarize his thoughts at that point.
I go into Donut Labs booth before it was even open to the public, so I could see that they had the solid state battery, and they were like, wait until you see what we've got here. The next day when
Finally, I took advantage of that Perplexity AI 6-month sub I told you about that came with the Lenovo Pebble keyboard. I thought I could do that, but 400 pages was too much. End result, I wait for AI to catch up. Patience is a virtue. True. You could also figure out a way to break it into chapters, break it into whatever is something consumable, something that you can work with, and go at it like that, right? Do it in pieces. I think that your idea, your plan to translate text into other language, I think that's huge, right? Both like for the expansion of human knowledge and also the appreciation of the what other cultures have, right? Like I think we need more of that. All derogatory. Into toes. It goes, so God said, let there be light. And James said, thanks.
Articles, email.
True.
their actual stand was up, the first thing I did was like run over, but it was so hush hush. And to be honest, that was the first thing that made me quite skeptical, was just how quiet they were being on stuff, well beyond like anything I'd ever seen before. Like they wouldn't even hint at the chemistry or how it might be manufactured, or even if it was a battery or not.
Wild. What did they actually have like on?
Well, that's why, like, what I like to do. No, that's J.R. Bob. No, we're talking about James from the internet. What I like to do, Chlorine, is I like to have the other AIs check on the whatever the output is, if it matters, right? If it's not just creative and like that, but it, like, again, I did a I was trying to recreate in the home something similar to like Beyond Meat, right? And in that process, like this is food, so you want to be careful. So I took it and I put it from Gemini and also into Claude and ChatGPT. And they had commentary on the quality of what was going on. It was like mostly correct, but you should do this instead, or this is going to get you closer to the thing, or this actually isn't featured in Beyond Meat because of these things, and like that. So it allowed me to tweak the recipe, and the first run, it turned out a little dry and a little more chewy than than I would have liked. So we still have a ways to go, but it's totally edible. It tastes good, and it's going to be a good platform for use. And then I got one of them vacuum sealers, so I cut it into little around half-pound bricks, vacuum sealed them, throw them in the freezer. Now my wife can take one out, heat it up, and do whatever she wants with it. And then the next time I think it's about 3 hours total, because there's a process, right? Like you have to combine methyl cellulose and get an emulsification and freeze that, and then combine the pea protein and yeast, nutritional yeast, and some other things. And you also use I use powdered beetroot and powdered pomegranate in order to get the appropriate color. And it had the look, right? It just wasn't quite there on the consistency. But as a first go, I think it went swimmingly, and I'm looking forward to this process. Just the next time I have about 3 hours that I can spend on one project.
On display, or is it just like a bunch of guys standing in a circle, not talking to you about stuff?
Nothing that resembled the real thing. I looked at it, you can see the really printed layers of the mock-up. In their defense, like, that was what they said they were presenting. They're like, this is not the battery. We don't want to bring the battery here in case someone steals it and steals our technology, was the line. They had a tiny bit of test footage, which gave like tiny amount of clues, like upper and lower band of the voltages of the cell. I was trying to make some conclusions from that, but there was really nothing there beyond some leaflets that gave specs.
Then between the 8th and the 20th of January, everyone from The Verge to the Electric Viking to a leading competitor, SVolt Energy, a Chinese battery maker, in various levels of intensity, called this product anything from unverified to outright fraudulent. The main critiques were lack of independent peer-reviewed data, especially on the core claims like energy density and life cycle that we would usually see some data released alongside these sorts of claims, and that the extraordinary claims came counter to the traditional slow progress we see in deep tech, particularly in solid-state research. Donut Labs was founded in 2024 as a spin-off from the Finnish electric motorcycle manufacturer Verge Motorcycles, which isn't known to have any sort of pedigree that I could find, at least, in solid-state batteries prior to this, so it doesn't seem like it spun out Donut Labs to commercialize any existing internal capability, which immediately makes you ask the question of how did they deliver on this so quickly? In fact, Donut Labs' first product, also controversial, was this hub motor, cool, but also initially discounted, but proved the doubters wrong when it entered commercial production in 2025. Donut Labs themselves points to this track record as evidence that they can do things that are just unexpected in the market. The big difference here is that a hub motor is hard, but very possible. But to me, the equivalent of what they're claiming now is basically like cracking fusion in a 2-year period with no prior experience or evidence. It's reasonably suspicious. That suspicion bubbled in the internet until on February 20th, Donut Lab released this video.
Today we are announcing a new video series that will share third-party validation of our incredible new battery. Some call it a scam.
Here they announce that they have commissioned the internationally respected VTT Technical Research Center in Finland to independently measure the performance and characteristics of their all-solid-state battery. It is important to note here, before we go any further, that whilst VTT are Finland's largest research institute, they are not a certification authority. That means that the tests that they are running here are completely dictated by Donut Labs. They are not independent research. Then on February 23rd, Donut Lab released the first of these independent test results that they'd been promising. These results focused on charging performance, showing things like a 4.5 minute 0 to 80% charge on under 11C rate, and a 9 to 10 minute up to 80% charge at a 5C. These were like interesting data points, but again, people immediately had complaints.
The test results got super interesting. I mentioned this in one of my videos, like each chemistry of battery has a kind of unique profile. The key thing of this first charge side, starting to lower voltage of 2.8 at 0 hours on the top graph, and going up to 4.15. That's like roughly the voltage range you'd expect for like an NMC cell. You can have other cells with that rough voltage range, then having that like sharp rise and then smooth sort of more linear region that goes up. That's definitely indicative of something like an NMC cell.
In our conversation, Ryan talked through, and I agreed with him, that this dataset by itself is pretty suspicious and very limited. With this amount of data, it's basically impossible to draw any truly meaningful conclusion about the performance claims, particularly things like extreme cell life cycle. I've been in labs myself where individual battery cells have withstood unbelievably aggressive testing regimes, usually for short periods of time, 24, 48, 72 hours, but haven't revealed long-term failure modes in that time period. So just because you can get a unit through this process doesn't mean that ultimately it survives and scales and delivers all of the claims that you have promised. Which is kind of confusing, because if we know that, as outsiders, if the goal here is to demonstrate on behalf of Donut Labs these extraordinary battery claims, why haven't they delivered to us a more decisive experiment? For me, this was the first major signal that something about what was going on here was kind of a red flag. A week later, as promised, the second installment dropped, this time looking at high temperature and charging and discharging profiles, and some kind of interesting things happened here.
In this episode, we proved that the cell can remain stable in conditions that are almost double what typical lithium-ion cells can operate in.
Essentially what happened here was they heated the battery up to 80 degrees for 2 hours one time, and then they showed it could charge up again with no repeated cycling or measuring of any other metrics. At some point in time, this pouch lost its vacuum, which is interesting because it could have been from repeated heat cycling, potentially these things degrade, but equally, it could have been from a degassing event internal to the battery chemistry. Ultimately, the thing that was actually even more interesting was that when it did fail, what didn't happen? Which is, it didn't catch fire. This suggested to a lot of folks that potentially they were actually being truthful, that internal to this battery is not a liquid lithium electrolyte. After this, guys like Ricky at 2-Bit Da Vinci looked into the data and charging profiles further and theorized that this actually might be some sort of sodium battery. More stable at higher temperatures, less likely to explode, and having similar performance characteristics. Then just last week, they released a discharge test, showing that in fact this was not a supercapacitor, which would have discharged quickly over the time period. And then the final release, which is a bit of a wild one, that came out yesterday and is this video. Not the most compelling piece of cinema ever filmed, but in theory shows a 70% charge in just 12 minutes of a battery integrated into the Verge motorcycle that they classify as still unoptimized. And honestly, it's kind of hard to know what to even talk about here. If this is true, this is an amazing piece of technology. Donut Labs quotes that this is 3 times faster than any other battery that they have ever produced. I also applaud the fact that this gentleman patiently waited holding the cable through the duration of the 12-minute charge time. But in all honesty, if this is the big aha moment of the reveal of this piece of technology, I wouldn't have minded a video that wasn't sped up. 5 minutes of viewing versus 12 minutes of viewing wasn't really too much difference. I also would have liked an independent clock that wasn't baked into the software that we're running, but I might just be a skeptical internet person, who knows. If this is a real piece of technology, this is an incredibly impressive tech demo, although maybe it's not quite the cinematic entrance into this universe that we otherwise hoped to get. Is this the 5-minute charging time that we were promised at the beginning? Well, no, it's 12-minute charging time, but still that is impressive. Is this the 100,000 cycle lifetime? Well, no, we still don't really have any evidence of that. And is this even the fully production-ready battery we were promised? Well, no, it still needs further optimizing.
But with the solid-state battery pack, it is now 3 times faster and will
Now, this dude looks like AI.
Will perform even better when everything is fully optimized.
And is it even really that impressive, given the fact that nowadays you can charge a phone in basically less time than it takes you to finish kind of a long sentence? And the amazing thing is, the other end of this cable isn't even connected. Honestly, all of these things put together bring...
I'm sorry, what was that?
Us to today, and today is kind of an awkward day because I wanted today to be about talking about the data and a potential breakthrough, and honestly where I find myself is more confused than we started out. The data is so incomplete here, and what feels like maybe even deliberately obscure, it's not really worth the time. If I was an investor sitting on the other side of the table, I would be asking them just to provide me with and what to today's things put the amazing thing. Basically less than really that impressive, given the fact that nowadays you can charge a phone in basically less time than it takes you to finish kind of a long sentence. And the amazing thing is, the other end of this cable isn't even connected. Honestly...
Yeah, I don't know, Brad. Like, what was that? Was that just a little... I don't even know.
All of these things put together bring us to today. And today is...
I want to say that it was just a little video or so. Yeah, like an app, right? Right? But I'm in 2026 where again, there's a fly brain being fully simulated in a simulation. It's like, maybe it is, Andy. I don't know. I am, as always, filled with healthy skepticism, but would not be surprised.
It's kind of an awkward day because I wanted today to be about talking about the data and a potential breakthrough. And honestly, where I find myself is more confused than we started out. The data is so incomplete here, and what feels like maybe even deliberately obscure, it's not really worth the time. If I was an investor sitting on the other side of the table, I would be asking them just to provide me with a very simple data set. Use a single cell to prove all of these individual claims and show it running over many hundred, preferably thousand of cycles. If you can do that, that becomes a complete and compelling data set. If you can't do that, I'd like to know why. At the moment, because this minimum bar of credibility isn't being met and is in fact being replaced with what I can only describe as, I guess, a teenager's fever dream of approach of a sensible PR strategy, this whole process feels way more like pageantry than progress. I think, though, the big confusing piece in all of this is just how visible and vocal this whole process is. That's the one bit of data that makes this whole circle kind of difficult to square. If this wasn't real and you knew about it internally, why would you put on such a public show? How do you walk back from this scenario with any sort of saved face if actually this isn't real?
Right, and that's why I tend to think there's some kind of there, is because, like, everyone's looking at you. Everyone in the battery technology world is looking at you. And you are not going to be able to, like, walk away from this without, like, that being the rest of your life. So there has to be something. Now, whether or not they're being, like, overly ambitious about numbers and everything else is always a possibility. But the scrutiny is at its highest level. People are waiting for this to fail. They are waiting to pounce.
I think there's only maybe three options. My hope is that this is accidentally a piece of technology blown out of proportion. It isn't quite the breakthrough that they thought it was. They didn't quite understand the data that they were seeing internally, and they kind of got carried away, and they just are doing the best that they possibly can. Option number two, which again, really hope this isn't it, is that we're in Theranos territory. We have a compelling CEO.
Pre-watch. Andy pre-watch. What would be hilarious if they used AI to predict what their model is doing and it lied to them to tell them what they wanted to hear? Yeah, I mean, that would be terrible.
That is talking to investors, that is trying to raise money, that has brought the public on side. According to this report, the company is currently seeking additional funding of 30 to 50 million euros from investors during the first quarter of 2026. It would not be the first time, and probably unfortunately will not be the last time, that a company has accidentally delivered a booth at CES that has made a grander claim than the company is quite ready to back up, and they are doing their best to drip feed something that gives them some assurances so that in the background they can sprint to making something somewhat feasible. Option three, the final option, weirdly, the one I think I really should be hoping for.
What up, Classical Gas?
Is that this is real. And actually, I really hope it isn't. Maybe the investors have seen the full data set during due diligence or something else and know internally that Donut Labs are genuinely onto something world-changing. And maybe they have all agreed together, hey guys, let's have a bit of fun with this one. We're all about to be billionaires. Let's make a scene. The problem is, this isn't how credible groups act. It gives a playbook and a case study of, we told...
But it's 2026, and the rules no longer apply.
Told you so to any future fraudsters to say, we're just drip feeding data the same way Donut Labs did, and they turned out to be credible. The reason you don't do stuff like this is because it encourages bad actors to do similar things. Donut Labs are leveraging a story with minimal dataset. Using techniques like this makes it harder for everyone to differentiate between the actual snake oil salesman and the guy dressed up as one because he doesn't respect the science behind his innovation. I'd like to know what you think. Leave a comment down below in the comments section. If you would like to watch the full chat with me and Ryan, I've cut together the bits that remained polite, and you can see it on the YouTube members and Patreon area. For me, there is still a big donut-shaped hole in this story. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next.
All right, so now we're all caught up with that. AI agents in the race to put AI agents everywhere.
Next time.
Today we are talking about the absolute race to productize and get agents enterprise ready. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. We are coming up on the end of Q1, and as part of that, I've been working on a big Q2 State of AI report. As you might expect, maybe the key story of Q1 was OpenClaw, not even just because of OpenClaw itself, but because of what it represented. I think you can look at OpenClaw as the instantiation of the new capability set that shifted around the
Absolutely. Absolutely, Classical Gas. I don't want to say incredulous. I want to say I am hopeful because battery technology is such a bottleneck to like solar expansion, wind expansion, these kind of things. And having a battery that's capable of doing that is, would be amazing. World changing, right? Like it's a whole new world after that. But at the same time, like big claims require big evidence. And nah, you're good.
End of last year, and which has really come to the fore this year. It's what I called on yesterday's episode AI's second moment, and refers to this idea that agents are actually at this point viable, and that people are in the midst of a million experiments right now giving agent systems access, building new types of systems to have agents interact, and especially, and as we'll talk about today, solving some of the key challenges of agents to make sure that they can diffuse across the entire business world. Part of the specific catalyst for today's show is Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang's speech at their annual GTC event yesterday, where Jensen said explicitly every software company in the world needs to have an OpenClaw strategy, and where he began to show off their enterprise-grade version of the software. Now, even before...
And this is what we talked about at the time that this thing dropped, right? The original Claude bot dropped, is that it didn't really matter how poor the implementation of Claudebot was, right? Because people had dabbled with the agents that were available to them on the consumer side, had dabbled with the agents that were available to them through Claude and ChatGPT, Gemini, and ultimately were like disappointed, right? Like it can kind of do stuff. What OpenClaw showed was, what if we crank that dial all the way in the other direction? Security be damned, and we just give it access. What is actually the capability? And a bunch of people ran out and gobbled it up, because ultimately that's the thing that we all want. Those of us who want agents and AI and Jarvis and these kind of things. The AI assistant that we've asked for and that we would like to have is something actually capable of doing things on our behalf. And the actual implementation that we're going to get from the AI companies is going to be somewhere in the middle now, right? It's not going to be as guardrailed as it was a couple months ago. It's going to be something with more access and more ability, but hopefully significantly fewer security flaws.
For this, the clawification of the world was well underway. Kevin Simbach from Delphi Labs recently wrote a post about all of the different variations and competitors, and started by claiming that OpenClaw opened the door. Kevin writes, before OpenClaw, agents were mostly technical experiments that produced nothing more than timeline slop. After OpenClaw and with the advent of Opus 4.5 and 4.6, agents became accessible, just a telegram message away, always on, actually doing helpful things, and kickstarting a new generation of digital opportunities. OpenClaw quickly proved two things at once. People don't want AI chat, they want to get work done, and giving an LLM broad access to your machine and or personal info is both insanely useful and mildly terrifying.
100%, right? Somebody made the joke earlier about and then it deleted all I think it was Chef, deleted all the files that it didn't think were useful, right? Like that kind of thing. What up, Nemesis? The idea that you could allow, is it a helpful assistant or is it an ambitious toddler? It's terrifying for a lot of people. Take care, Brad. For a lot of people, the computer is life. The phone is life, right? Like I store all my pictures, my data, my, work, all my things, whatever it is that I'm working on. And if all of that were deleted one day, your asshole would pucker and you'd get that sinking feeling in your gut and cry. And here we are.
So, as he writes, the last month has been a weird kind of Darwinism, with builders shipping faster than slot posters, security people screaming into the void, and a growing cohort of people saying, oh crap, this is actually going to rewrite how software and digital businesses work. And yet, as Kevin acknowledges, not everyone is sold on OpenClaw itself, and there has been a mad race to build or update alternatives. A bunch of them, like Nanobot, ZeroClaw, PicoClaw, or NanoClaw, are all attempts to reduce the overall complexity down to some specific useful feature set, and then there's others like OpenFang, Hermes.
Right, whoever can reduce this thing down to the point where it runs on your phone, they win, right?
Multis and Ironclaw that are all trying to bring security to it through self-hosting. Yet if that represents one end of the spectrum of the clawification of AI, on the other hand, you have a huge number of companies, some that were AI native, some that weren't AI native, offering up what are effectively their own versions of OpenClaw. In other words, agents that are deeply integrated and integratable with some key set of systems and personal context. At the end of February, Notion introduced custom agents, which have a lot of features in common with OpenClaw, and also all of the context that comes from integration with Notion, where many companies are running all of their information. And of course, we also got Perplexity Computer. Perplexity Computer is a very full-throated reimagining of Perplexity from the ground up into a complete problem solution design system capable of spinning up complex systems of agents and sub-agents to get things done and build things that people want. In the couple weeks since Perplexity released Computer, they've also released Computer for Enterprise, which can operate from within Slack, and which also has direct connections, they claim, to more than 400 applications. And they also even got on the Mac Mini part of the theme with their launch of Personal Computer, which they call an always-on local merge with Perplexity Computer that works for you 24/7. Getting philosophical, Perplexity CEO Aravind Srinivas wrote a long post about why the AI is the computer. In it, he argues, AI models are becoming so capable that the products built around them have been bottlenecked for showing their true potential. The chat UI is good for answers, and agents are good for individual tasks.
And another thing, right? Like those of you from James's chat, he's got that thing, exclamation point, whatever the fuck, RAM. And, he runs down the list of the data centers that don't exist and the RAM that don't exist. The one issue that I have is that part where it says that the demand isn't there, right? The demand is there. One of the issues that Claude and Anthropic are running into is that they don't have enough compute in order to both develop the new model and to service their existing clients with inference. They have to balance those things out. And the only way to solve that particular bottleneck is with more data center. Now, I'm not justifying it where the data centers are built or how they're being built. We could be doing so much better, right? We could have fully enclosed liquid cooling systems that, have a water loss of fractions of a percent. We could be, whatever, we could be doing more with renewables. Hey, I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe. Thank you for the follow. We could be doing more with renewables, right? Like every one of these data centers should have an entire fucking solar panel suite built on top of them, and over the parking lot, whatever other bullshit, right? Like we absolutely, like all things under capitalism, we could be doing better, and we're not doing better because it interferes with the profit motive and all that kind of shit. Can they not do that with time versus capacity? According to them, they're having problems, right? That's the thing, is that one of the issues actually that we're running into is the consumer, right? Maybe not you, but as the consumer of AI's impatience. Me, I have patience. I'm fire and forget with the AI, right? Like I type in my prompt and I set it off, and then I go back to whatever it is I was doing and check back in a minute or two on my time, right? It's people who need an answer now that are actually in some ways making things more difficult for everyone else, because if they could do batch prompting, batch inference, they would be able to more efficiently use the systems that are already in place. And they're not doing that because the goal is, I need to know now. It's my inference and I want it now. We lose the most water when we need to open the closed loop to repair something, or if something breaks. Basically just leaking. Yeah. And that's the thing, is, under a rational society, we would have legislation in place that says, yes, you can build your data center, but you have to use closed loop cooling systems. You have to offset your power usage with and here's the thing, that data centers are making your power bill go up. No, right? The data centers are not making your power bill go up. What's making your power bill go up is the power company, right? And it's very simple. Here's the power generation, here's the consumption, and in between it, you have to run it down electrical wires. If you want to run more power than those wires are capable of, you have to add additional wires. They don't wanna. That's it. That's why your power bill is going up. It's more complex than that, because there's actually legislation in place is that whatever they do to add more infrastructure to their system, they are legally able to just charge that to us, the consumers and taxpayers and whatnot. And it's just the entire regulatory system around private utility companies is absolutely fucked, right? Like, I don't care on what side of the debate you're on of capitalism versus communism, that legislation is 100% fucked. Yeah, like you can't use methane turbines in the parking lot. What up, JBO? Like, like you have to. Yeah, no, absolutely me. Like it's everywhere. I'm getting solar. I'm finally able to work all the numbers. I'm getting solar and I'm getting grandfathered in, and it's all because of that. Right? Like I saw the and I just need to make it work. Right? I need to get the solar going on. I understand that I'm privileged, but I also work hard. Bucket bunnies love this stream. I don't know what that means, but good.
Meanwhile, the UI for entire workflows has always been the computer.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting grandfathered into because my understanding is places like California and Arizona have changed the net metering is still occurring, but it's at 60% of whatever it is, so it still ends up costing you money. New York is still at a 1-for-1 until the until the shit that they're trying to get past gets passed. But I'll be grandfathered in under the existing paradigm. So
effectively what Arvind is arguing.
What are you struggling with, classical gas?
Is that the full potential of agentic systems requires the complete canvas of what your computer offers, bridging from local files to cloud systems and beyond. Which brings us to the not one, not two, not even really three, but closer to 3.5 new entrants into this clawification of everything category that were announced just yesterday. Manus, which was purchased by Meta in December, was one of the early leaders throughout 2025 in general purpose agents. This week, they announced a new Manus desktop app, the key feature of which they called My Computer. Very much picking up on the new design pattern they write, it's your AI agent now on your local machine. The use cases they point to include organizing thousands of unsorted photos, renaming hundreds of invoices, building desktop apps in Swift entirely on your computer with no code written manually.
Oh, of your house? I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about your situation. So, but I don't expect, unless I like win the lottery or some other bullshit, I expect that this is going to be the house that I live in for, the duration.
Combining with existing connectors to create seamless automated workflows and creating local routines with personal projects, agents, and scheduled tasks. In the blog post, without naming OpenClaw, they acknowledge the realization of the need to be able to bridge from cloud to local. They write, "The cloud sandbox has served Manus well. Inside an isolated, secure environment, it has everything an AI agent needs: networking, a command line, a file system, and a browser. This is the foundation of Manus's power as a general AI agent, always online and always ready to work. However, there has always been a fundamental limitation. Your most important work happens on your own computer."
I mean, a sailboat could be nice, right? Like, you talk about live on the boat, go to new places, outrun the hurricanes, all that kind of stuff, and just like the ultimate in freedom. It's a fair dream, right? Like, if it's something that you think you can do, something to think, No, you don't jump out, you turn into the hurricane and you challenge the hurricane.
Your project files, development environments, and essential applications all reside locally, not in the cloud. My Computer, then, is a way to close that gap.
What up, Ivan? The sharks are in the water. They're not in the boat. You have nothing to worry about.
Now, one interesting thing about the Manus announcement is that they're thinking a little bit ahead in terms of the specific opportunities that come with desktop. For example, doing something that I haven't seen from a lot of the other competitors, they're actually pushing the idea of building fully working Mac apps, not just cloud-based applications that other people would use. Cedric Chi writes, "Claude Code, CoWork, OpenClaw, Codex, and Manus all seem to be converging on the same idea. The agent lives on your machine." The second related announcement
I plan to live forever. It has worked so far, right? You can tell me I'm not going to, anybody in chat, and that's fine. You believe whatever you want to believe. And Maggie, I believe it. I believe you punched the hurricane in the face and then it fucked off. That's what I believe. I'm just keeping on, right?
Yesterday came from Adaptive. They wrote, "Introducing Adaptive Computer. We put AI inside of an always-on personal computer that it uses to get work done. Schedule agents, create software, automate anything. By the end of this year," they write, "AI agents will use more software than humans do. You won't be the one clicking the button or browsing the web page. Your agent will. That requires a new kind of computer. We built one. Most business software," they continue, "has the same problem. Someone has to sit there and operate it, moving data, updating records, filling out forms. That someone is usually you." The example they gave, interestingly, is the real-world business example of a hardware store owner who has 47 new products in a spreadsheet and needs them to get added to Square. Adaptive says drag the file into Adaptive, tell it what you want, and it handles the rest. Out of scope of this particular show, but I think it's super interesting that you're seeing these very bleeding-edge tech companies trying to appeal to the hardware store owner use case. They then go on to pitch their secret sauce, which they call encoded memory. They write, "What makes Adaptive different is what happens after. It encodes what it learned, how Square works, how your..."
That as a problem, Ivan, has a very simple solution. Two potential options. One, you set up something like a reloadable card or some other disposable card, or some like Capital One will generate numbers that you can use in place of a credit card, right? Something where the damage would be limited, right? It can only do what it can do. At this stage of the game, that's the safe play in that, right? You got a reloadable card, got $100 on it. Even if the AI started, buying everything in sight, it's only going to buy $100. Who is responsible for what the agent does? Nobody knows, because we haven't bothered to ask. And we are too 2026 to even start talking about that kind of shit. God.
Catalog is organized and how you prefer things to be done. So the next week when you ask for a daily sales report at 8 p.m., it builds the agent, schedules it, pulls from Square data that it already knows.
Oh no, we absolutely do need a lot, Ivan. We need a lot. We're off the map, right? Like, there is where we're going, we don't need roads. And like everything on one side is going too fast for us to catch up. And on the other side, the people who should be catching up are 1,000 years old and incapable of understanding that the internet is not a dump truck, it's a series of tubes and all this shit. Like, everything is wrong, right? Everything for this type of experiment that we are running is wrong, but we're doing it anyway. So it's strap in and, and hope for the best and build community and organize and all the other things. Cool. You're the third immortal in here today, myself included. Couldn't you set things up so the agent detects a need or opportunity, like refill subscription, buy a product, and instead of paying directly, it just generates a detailed recommendation? I don't have Darkness the Marmot for the James Gang. I have Twilight. Twilight comes before Darkness. The agent can never touch your financial data. Yes. No,
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Resistance is futile.
Welcome, Raiders. I do not know the name. In Espanol. You are a Spanish channel. I got that. I do not speak Spanish, but welcome. I'm Globus the Elder. I talk about AI, automation, robots, and future tech. And you are all welcome here. My Spanish is very muy mal, poquito, right? The only Spanish sentence I can say is que lástima, dos chicas en la cocina. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe. Thank you for the follow. We like that. We talk about science, technology, and science fiction. Then you are very welcome here. We do that as well. What am I doing here in this stream? I talk about AI, automation, robots, and future tech. We're currently watching a video about the race to put AI agents everywhere.
Now, anytime there's a new launch, it tends to be pretty hard.
This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe. Thank you for the follow.
To get good signal from Twitter at this point because so much of the discourse is either AI bots or undisclosed paid tweets. But Ole Lemon did
for y'all who haven't been here, that singing voice, technically not my voice. Old Lobster, member of the community, took streams, my speaking voice, turned it into a model, and then used it to, it's like 3 years old now, it's wild. Used it to do covers of songs in my voice, right? So that's actually someone else singing that was covered to sound like me. And because it sounds like me, I can sing along with it. So when you hear that, it's a duet between myself and the computer version of myself.
Write of a good experience that he recently had through Adaptive. The example he gave was automating YouTube AI research. Basically, his argument is that YouTube has a ton of really great videos on in-depth AI systems that are extremely up-to-date and current with the moment, but there is a ton to filter through that makes it hard to sit around and browse to get the diamonds in the rough. The prompt he gave Adaptive was, analyze YouTube videos about AI and Claude workflows from the last 24 hours that have at least 10,000 views, pull the full transcripts, extract the top 3 most tactical and actionable workflows, and send me a daily email report every morning. The third and maybe biggest...
This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me baby. Right? That is both me and not me at the same time.
OpenClaw and agent-related...
Had just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me baby.
Announcement yesterday, however...
Is exactly 1 year old. Sorry, we're derailed now. Oh, shit. $2.5 million years ago, a friend of mine made a tool from a stone and defended tribes technology. Sorry for the technical term. It's a wheel, then a fire, and a rest is a blur. Roll to your vast plot in the pot with a plot science, let it sit. I bet it streamlines your environs yet. What's a resource local to glotto? The method isn't bringing, so the mechanism follow that technology. Excellent. We love that. Did I donate my beard to science? No. I sacrificed it.
However, came from Nvidia. The context for that quote we heard at the beginning about every company needing an OpenClaw strategy was the setup for Jensen introducing NemoClaw.
Corporate.
Now, functionally, this is not actually a...
To solar power at my house. To not having to rely on subs to try and make money. To all the things. I sacrificed it to all the things.
standalone agent, but rather a software toolkit
but still look good,
built on top of the OpenClaw project. OpenClaw creator Peter Steinberger wrote yesterday, "Been so much fun cooking OpenShell and NemoClaw with the Nvidia folks. Huge step towards secure agents you can trust." So what this is basically an approach that adds privacy and security to OpenClaw instances by giving them an isolated sandbox to work in. The agent can still access resources as necessary, but the NemoClaw stack
I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe. And I love that so much because it's Ben, right? Ben something. Not Ben Folds, but he's covering Call Me Maybe, and he's doing it in his style, and it is just so good. And then it's my voice, and it makes me happy.
Access control. Specifically, it integrates into policy-based security and other guardrails to theoretically allow it to operate safely within enterprises. NemoClaw is model and hardware agnostic and allows users to choose between cloud and local models. Encapsulating this whole shift, Jensen Huang said, "OpenClaw gave the industry exactly what it needed at exactly the time. Just as Linux gave the industry exactly what it needed at exactly the time, just as Kubernetes showed up at exactly the right time, just as HTML showed up."
Also, for the new people, if you have any questions about AI or any of that kind of stuff, feel free to ask. We are as much an educational stream as we are anything else. We have people in chat who are coders who use AI for coding. They variety of different skill levels, a variety of different capacity, and you don't even have to like AI if you just want to know what accurate information exists around AI, because there's a lot of inaccurate information from people who don't like AI, and anti-AI people are absolutely welcome here as long as they come in good faith and want to learn the actual facts. You know what I mean? Maggie, you always have questions, and I'm more than happy to answer them for you.
Made it possible for the entire industry to grab onto this open source stack and go do something with it. Now, what's been interesting about the response is that for most, although not for all, this hasn't been a jump the shark or jump the lobster moment. Instead, people have been pretty enthusiastic about.
Yep, we got philosophers and technologists and physics folks, and that's just Ivan.
About what Nvidia is trying to do. Kevin Simbach again writes, "Excited to dig into NemoClaw. Have spent a good bit of
I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me baby." Yeah, one of the things we do, I'm gonna go with Taker SP. I hope that's correct. One of the things we do talk about is the various AI video tools that are available. So if you're into that kind of thing, we absolutely cover that as well. Like we're broad spectrum about the entire thing.
My career in enterprise, I've been pretty vocal about OpenClaw not being enterprise ready. But the concept of an agentic workforce is a killer and enterprises are going to want it, so this may be what really kicks it off. Tristan Rhodes.
You're scared of it, Maggie, because you don't know, right? The fear is it will take all the jobs and not create jobs unless those jobs are like maintaining AI facilities. I have no interest in that. I want to do my own stuff. In my ideal outcome, right? Which we should always talk about our ideal outcomes, not anything, we should understand that there are limitations in physics and all the things. But we should focus we should focus on what we want to see in the world, right? What I want to see in the world from AI is that thing where you can spend your time doing the things that you want to do, putting art into the world, being creative, having, a garden, maybe a community garden, meeting people, all the things, because you no longer have to, create surplus value to survive, right? Taker SP, the LUL emote doesn't work in this chat. Just so that you're aware. It's a whole thing. So it's about, like, you can ignore the AI and, oh, we've been hearing that story for longer than 50 years. Like, that was what Marx was talking about, right? You know, and Lenin was trying to, you know, for whatever he was trying to, you know, was allegedly trying to do, right? Like, we have been working towards this goal. I think that the, that, like, so for the new people, I'm not a fan of capitalism, right? I think it's a highly inefficient system that creates bottlenecks. You can differ, that's fine. I'm just letting you know where I stand. And I think that AI is a large enough kaiju to defeat the capitalist kaiju, right? The kaiju of capitalism. And we can, on the other side of it all, have, you know, fully automated luxury gay space communism. We can do that.
Writes, I've been avoiding OpenClaw and waiting for it to mature. There have been countless variation and forks along the way, but Nvidia is the most valuable company in the history of the world.
Sure, Chlorine, I don't have a whole lot of use for the term late stage capitalism. One, because I don't know that you can say this is late stage capitalism without a historical perspective, right? To be on the other side of whatever comes next and looking back, you can say, oh, that was late stage capitalism. The other issue that I have, like, the fall of Rome took 800 years. So, yeah, we could be in late stage capitalism, but how long is late stage capitalism going to last? 100 years, 5 years, 1,000 years? You know, like, I almost feel like it's a thought terminating cliche. And this is no snark and beef to you or any of the streamers who use the term. I understand the popularity of the term. I'm strictly talking about myself, you know. Yeah, I mean, I understand that point of view, old lobster. Around 70 minutes, 18 months tops. I was just talking to Snaps about AI agents with community gardens. You can run a local model to operate an AI agent if you want to reduce the environmental impact of using cloud-based services. Sure. You could conceivably you know, set up a like a variety of cameras and computer vision software that fed into an AI agent that told you if anything was wrong with any of your particular plants at any particular point in time, and you could go in and do you know, stuff at that time. Put in the Discord, old lobster. I'm not even going to get to touch half the things I wanted to. Like, there's a variety of avenues. If you take a step back and you don't have a knee-jerk reaction to you know, like AI, like, okay, how can we automate all this? Communism is utopic until all the work is done by AI and robots. Then it's possible, but only if that means of production are owned by all the people. If they are controlled by corporation businesses, we'll be hardly enslaved and poor. That's a fair critique, and that's why my position on the entire thing starts with fully automation, right? Like, the problem that we exist in right now is that your life, right, your housing, your food, your medical, your everything is tied to generation of wealth, right? You have to work in order to survive, and therefore losing your job makes you unemployed as opposed to retired, right? If we had a system in place that the goal was to get to retirement, in that I want the automation to come from my job so that I can get retired, right? Like, and then I go and I do my thing because all of the needs are met. And in the meantime, I am looked on by the rest of society as, as like I'm contributing, right? Like the AI can't do my job, so I'm out here doing it for everyone, right? Like that kind of thing. Again, I understand this can sound utopian, but if you're not aiming for something great and you're just like negotiating against yourself, as like, well, I'll take a moderate increase in 2% and nah, dude. Killed the cactus by not watering it. Yeah, do we really need AI to grow things? We did just fine for a very long time. Did we? Right? You really think about it. What happened to the Fertile Crescent? And why what happened there, right? Like it's not a thing. Like what I'm saying is that we can do better, right? We can do better, and we can do better with less chemicals that we're, over fertilizing and everything else. There are ways we could do better, right? And beyond what Zach App would, we could do better right now without AI. Yes, Zach, you're not wrong. But we could also do better than that with AI.
Does that mean NemoClaw becomes the dominant variation of OpenClaw? Eric Su wrote an entire X article called Nvidia Just Solved the One Problem Blocking AI Agents, of course all about the security concerns. Now, one thing I will say that's been interesting from our own experience, regular listeners know we have two different OpenClaw related things going on right now. Claw Camp is an open, free, self-directed program that walks people step by step through setting up their own OpenClaw and giving them access to a community of other builders who can help them along the way, that at this point more than 7,000 people have signed up to participate in. Enterprise Claw, meanwhile, is a managed 6-week executive sprint that's meant to help individual enterprise leaders and teams from enterprises get that same sort of learning, but in a much more in-depth and supported way. Now, as part of Enterprise Claw, we gave people the choice to either use OpenClaw or do a generic version of agent team building using Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, etc. And interestingly, it's about half and half in terms of who wanted to learn on OpenClaw versus who wanted to use other systems. Meaning that even in the pre-enterprise-grade OpenClaw world, there is still demand for figuring out how to use this platform, which I think is certainly validation of everything that Jensen is saying. Now, Robert Scoble had an interesting note from the NVIDIA GTC Expo Hall that was actually more about OpenAI than it was about NVIDIA. He writes, visiting the Expo Hall shows you why OpenAI is changing strategy. All the big booths are enterprise. The biggest news here is how NVIDIA is bringing OpenClaw to the enterprise. Which brings us to another important story from yesterday. The Wall Street Journal reports that OpenAI is done with side quests and will refocus on nailing a core business, which is now more than ever refocused on enterprise and coding.
And this right here is, I'm glad you touched on this. One of the critiques by both pro and anti-AI people were all these side quests, right? Like Sora, and shit like that. It's like a separate entity and these kind of things. This, on the pro AI side, like, okay, OpenAI is going to get back to fundamentals and do what needs to be done to be competitive in the environment, etc., etc. For the anti-AI people, this takes a bunch of wind out of their sails, right? The very thing you critique them for, they're not going to do it anymore. So that argument has fallen on its face. Now what?
The journal reporting states that CEO of Applications, Fiji Simo, has delivered a wake-up call within the company, pointing out that their do-everything strategy has reduced their lead on the competition. Simo told staff last week, "We cannot miss this moment because we are distracted by side quests. We really have to nail productivity in general, and particularly productivity on the business front." Now, this is of course a big shift away from Sam Altman's traditional management approach, which he described as betting on a series of startups within the company. That led to a fairly dizzying array of product bets, including the Sora app, the Atlas browser, and the yet-to-be-revealed Johnny Ive device, just to name a few. As basically everyone on AI Twitter has done, The journal compared that approach to Anthropic's very narrow strategy built around agentic coding and the way that that expands into broader sets of knowledge work for the enterprise. Now, it's not new that OpenAI has decided to refocus efforts on similar themes. That's been the big story since GPT-5 was released and Codex came out, but there clearly seems to be a new urgency. Interestingly, according to Simo, the code red from last year is not over. Last week, she told staff, "We are very much acting as if it's a code red." And while a lot of people are speculating around what might get the axe because of that, for example, the much maligned ads approach, every day it seems we get some new announcement around Codex and their larger coding suite. The most recent, and the one that we got yesterday, and that I think is coherent with all of these qualification themes, is the native integration of subagents into Codex. The OpenAI developers account writes, "You can accelerate your workflow by spinning up specialized agents to keep your main context window."
Ben, when it comes to Mountain Dew, there's only one Mountain Dew, and that's the original. And even look, Orange Crush Zero Sugar. That's the time I'm on at this stage of my life, right? Celsius, no sugar. You know, it's not bad, right? It's not bad. No, Celsius. The reason, Ivan, coffee in the morning, absolutely. But I have zero sugar creamer now. I am gradually eliminating various forms of sugar from my diet. Not entirely. I'm not an absolutist. But Ivan, the superiority of Celsius is that I can drink half this and it won't go flat because I get the fizz-free one. Right? You can't really see, but it says fizz-free right here. I can drink this as fast or as slow as I want. I could drink half the can and put it in the fridge. It'll be good tomorrow, right? And it's no sugar. You get a lot of fucking sugar. You look at the back of that can, Ivan. You look at the back of that can. What up, Kess the Dreamer? Welcome in. I'm a fan of Celsius. My favorite one is the dragon fruit, followed by the blue raz, followed by the peach green tea, followed by the pink lemonade. All the carbonated ones I cannot fuck with. I just don't like them. Effervescence infused.
Clean, tackle different parts of a task in parallel.
Oh, Crix, if I was getting paid off, advertising these products, I could stream more and work less.
Parallel, steer individual agents as work unfolds. LLM Junkie and Will writes, "In the next Codex update, multi-agents will get a massive flexibility upgrade. Hey Codex, when you implement this plan, I want you to delegate all of the lower complexity tasks to GPT 5.3 Spark subagents. Instead of needing to create 100 different custom agent roles for different situations, you can just prompt your agent to spawn whatever model or reasoning level you want, with only natural language." Emmanuel DePietro went through some use cases for the subagent system, things like code review, where he argues you could have one agent per concern, test coverage with one subagent writing tests, another checking edge cases, and another validating, etc., etc. And it's clear that even though the foot is still firmly on the gas, the shift in OpenAI strategy seems to be bearing some fruit. OpenAI President Greg Brockman wrote yesterday, "GPT 5.4 has ramped faster than any other model we've launched in the API. Within a week of launch, 5 trillion tokens per day, handling more volume than our entire API 1 year ago, and reaching an annualized run rate of $1 billion in net new revenue." Sam Altman showed a chart of Codex usage being very aggressively up and to the right, adding the Codex team are hardcore builders, and it really comes through in what they create. No surprise, all the hardcore builders I know have...
The pulsing is interesting, right? Don't pay attention to the top of the peak. You got to pay attention to like somewhere in the middle, because that shows you your average, or even the bottom. Still the bottom is impressive, but the pulsing, the relatively regular pulsing, is interesting.
Switch to Codex. Responding to the news about OpenAI shifting focus, Dwayne on X writes, "I actually thought OpenAI were already doing a good job focusing on coding. Codex is amazing for coding. One area where they absolutely fail is UI. GPT 5.4 can't design to save its life, even if you have super detailed skill to guide it. It has zero taste." And for what it's worth, I talked about this on my operator show. This has very much been my experience to the point where I can't just give Codex guidelines. I literally have to give it the actual design files from Claude for it to copy exactly. Although my experience with Codex when it comes to actually building has been really good. Summing all this up, if Q1 was a realization that agents are here and a mass wide-scale experimentation with the form factors and design patterns introduced by OpenClaw, Q2 is set up to be an absolute sprint to productize those agents and get them ready for broader diffusion, especially within the enterprise. One thing that I will be watching closely is how much old patterns of productization, where conventional wisdom was all about simplifying things for wider audiences, still hold, given that the breakout was this incredibly complex system in OpenClaw. I'm not sure I know where the right complexity band is going to be, or if it's going to be a spectrum of different types of complexity for different users, but I can guarantee that just about everything that can be tried will be tried in the quarter to come. For now, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Appreciate you listening or watching, as always, and until next time, peace.
And the same for me, unfortunately. I did a lot of yapping, and so we didn't get to a bunch of the things that I wanted to cover. But I'll be back. I will always come back. I will always come back. As long as y'all keep showing up, I will, bring friends. But I'll keep showing up. I will be back. It's looking like I might be back on Tuesday, depending on how my Tuesday shakes out. If not on Tuesday, I will be back Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of next week and Saturday. I have every expectation of pulling that off. So, we got that going for us. Please stick around for the raid. You know how this works. You've been on Twitch long enough. Taking a look. Seeing if there's anyone I haven't raided in a minute that I should raid. Tinkers at Ohio State presenting nuclear non-proliferation work. That's neat. Ba, ba, ba. Good times never seem so good. And since I mentioned Zach, let's read Zach. Sweet Caroline. Ba, ba, ba. All right. In the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you've forgotten. Always remember that Shaggy loves you. So do I. Now we wait. Make sure that Ben gets the end of the thing, that it doesn't get cut off. And I'll see y'all Wednesday, possibly Tuesday.